Hypnosis, right.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's got an idea about it. You know, mystical powers, swinging watches, making you cluck like a chicken. But today, we're going deep, ditching the theatrics and getting into the real deal with transformations, neurolinguistic programming, and the structure of hypnosis.
Yeah, John Grinder and Richard Bandler, the authors, they were all about stripping away that mystical stuff. They saw hypnosis as really a kind of communication, just with its own, unique structure.
And that's what hooked me on this deep dive, that whole angle. Like they even say in the foreword that hypnotic techniques, they're used by poets, salespeople, even parents. Makes you wonder if we're all just hypnotizing each other all the time.
Well, there is that. They're arguing that these patterns, they're in everything, every interaction we have. Whether we realize it or not, we're constantly influencing each other.
So are some people just like natural-born hypnotists then? Like, do they just get these patterns instinctively, making them super persuasive?
Well, they talk about susceptibility to this kind of communication. It's not about, spooky powers or anything. It's more about how people process information. Some are visual, some respond to sound, others, it's all about feeling, sensation. Grinder and Bandler, they call these representational systems. And understanding those, that's key to this whole thing.
Okay, now we're getting into it, but it still feels kind of mysterious, you know?
Okay, so imagine you're trying to connect with someone who's, say, super visual. You'd use vivid language, right?
Yeah.
But if they're more about feeling, touch, you'd use different language,
Yeah.
something that evokes physical sensations.
So like tailoring your communication, but on a deeper level.
Exactly, and that's where trance comes in. They define it as an amplification of responses, not some out-of-body experience. You tap into their dominant system, amplify their natural responses, and guide them gently into a different state of awareness.
Not mind control, more like speaking their language, but like unconsciously.
Right, you got it. It's natural patterns, not forcing anything.
Okay, this is where it gets really wild for me. They tell this story about a woman, hysterical paralysis. Just by using specific language, they shifted the paralysis from one limb to another, like hacking the unconscious mind or something.
It shows how powerful language can be. They weren't forcing anything, just using these techniques to guide her unconscious towards a different solution. Working with it, not against it.
All right, so how do these subtle techniques actually work? Let's get practical.
Okay, let's take verbal, pacing, and leading. You're talking to someone, and you start with something undeniably true, something they can experience right there in that moment.
Like, we're both here right now having this conversation. Super basic, but I kind of see it.
Right. You're meeting them where they are. Then you slip in less verifiable statements, subtly drawing their attention inward. You might say, as we chat, you might notice the feeling of your feet on the floor.
Okay, shifting the focus inward, building on that first true statement.
Yeah. And it gets even cooler when you add nonverbal stuff, mirroring their breathing, their posture, even tiny facial expressions.
Whoa, next level. It's like a silent invitation to go deeper, follow you into that trance state almost.
Totally. The unconscious mind, it loves patterns, tends to follow along.
What about overlapping representational systems? That sounds like something out of Star Trek.
It's about moving between those systems, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, but smoothly. Imagine describing a beach. You start with the color of the water, then the sound of the waves, then the feeling of warm sand on their skin.
So you paint a picture, but you're shifting how they experience it as you go.
Exactly. Seamless transitions, so the conscious mind barely notices, like guiding them through a sensory landscape into a different state of awareness.
Wow, it's like composing with words, hitting all the senses, and this applies to more than just like formal hypnosis, right?
Oh, absolutely. Storytelling, presentations, even just having a good conversation. These techniques, they add depth to any communication.
Okay, you mentioned naturally occurring trance states earlier. Are you saying we're all just walking around in a trance half the time?
Think about it. Driving, you miss your exit, lost in thought. Or reading, you completely lose track of time. Those are naturally occurring trances.
It is kind of freaky when you realize how often we're on autopilot.
Right. But it shows the unconscious is always there, working. Grinder and Bandler, they say we can use these natural states as a starting point for deeper work.
So someone's already daydreaming, you can ease them into a deeper trance with these techniques.
Precisely. Catch them when the conscious mind's already relaxed, open.
This is really making me think about communication differently.
It's about awareness, picking up on those subtle cues. That's what makes you a better communicator in any situation.
Okay, hold on. I gotta ask about anchoring. Sounds more like something you do with a boat.
It's fascinating. You create a link between something specific and a state of mind, an emotion. like a mental shortcut.
So if I want to feel confident before, say, a big presentation, I can anchor that feeling to a touch, a gesture, and boom, instant confidence.
You got it. The book's got tons of ways to set these anchors, making sure they're unique, easy to trigger.
That's amazing. It's like giving yourself a superpower, accessing those states whenever you need them.
And it's not just feeling good. Anchoring can help with stress, motivation, even phobias.
Like athletes have those rituals, right? To get in the zone, is that anchoring?
Totally. Conditioned response, linking actions to peak performance.
Mind blown. Anchors are everywhere.
Everywhere. And once you see it, you can start creating your own, linking those positive states to specific triggers.
I feel like Neo seeing the Matrix. This is deep.
It is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Trance-formations is the guidebook, right? Revealing all these hidden workings of communication.
Okay, but what about when someone's just resistant to hypnosis? All this stuff, great, but what if they're just not into it?
It's common. Yeah, and often it's the conscious mind trying to protect itself,
They're not about breaking it down, but working with it.
Exactly. They have strategies. One is utilizing confusion.
Confusion? How do you even do that without seeming, well, confused?
Not about being nonsensical. It's more like introducing something unexpected. Briefly disrupts that analytical process, creates an opening for suggestions to get through.
So you're distracting the conscious mind just for a second, letting the unconscious be more open.
Bingo. Then there's reframing, which we touched on earlier.
Right, like changing perspective, opening up new ways of seeing things.
Exactly. You could reframe resistance itself as intelligence, protectiveness. You're acknowledging it, but gently shifting their view.
Instead of don't resist, it's smart you're being cautious, kind of.
Exactly. And never underestimate metaphors and stories.
Oh, I love a good story. How do those work here?
They speak directly to the unconscious mind, often bypassing the conscious mind's defenses.
Sneaking past the guards while they're distracted by the entertainment.
Precisely. A well-told story can deliver a powerful message without setting off those alarms.
These strategies are amazing. It's like outsmarting the conscious mind to get to the heart of the matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it's not manipulation. It's about effective communication with the unconscious, helping someone heal and grow.
You're speaking their language, just on a deeper level.
You got it.
Okay, we've covered so much, these techniques, anchors, even getting around resistance. But there's this reframing in trance thing. Sounds intense, like using that receptive state to really shift someone's perspective.
It's powerful stuff. You're helping someone reevaluate an experience, while their conscious mind is more open to suggestions.
So using that suggestibility to introduce new ways of seeing things, maybe even create lasting change.
Exactly. They have this whole process for it. First, you got to identify the behavior they want to change, right? Something that's stuck in. Then, instead of trying to make it disappear, you help them see the good in it.
The good in it. Like even a bad habit has a purpose.
Often, yeah. Maybe it's protecting them from something or getting them attention, even if it's not the best way. By acknowledging that good part, you can work with it instead of fighting it.
So instead of just stop being afraid of public speaking, it's what's that fear protecting you from? Like maybe it's a fear of judgment or needing approval.
Exactly. And once you find that need, you can find a better way to fulfill it.
That's way more empowering, right? Not just telling someone to change, but giving them choices, control.
Exactly. And to make it stick, they talk about future pacing. Have them imagine using these new behaviors in the future.
Like a mental rehearsal, getting the unconscious mind on board with these new patterns.
Right. And through it all, it's about getting feedback from the unconscious mind. Not imposing solutions, but working together to create meaningful change.
It's like we have the power to heal and grow within ourselves. We just need the right tools to unlock it. Speaking of tools, what about those specific utilization techniques? They sound pretty hands-on.
Oh yeah, they get into the nitty-gritty of using trance states for specific challenges. Phobias, managing pain, even improving performance, all laid out.
So not just trance for trance's sake, but as a tool for real change.
Exactly. One that stood out to me was the new behavior generator. It's for helping people develop new responses to tough situations.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How does that work?
Imagine this. You're guiding someone to watch themselves in a situation, but like a movie, from a distance. And from there, they can try out new ways of reacting.
Like rewriting their own story, but in their mind, safe to experiment.
Exactly. And the book stresses these new behaviors, they got to align with the person's values. It's about their transformation, not some outside pressure.
That could be huge for breaking bad habits, those patterns we get stuck in.
It can be. And they give you examples, overcoming procrastination, better communication, all sorts of stuff.
So we're taking control of our experience, right? Which makes me think of self-hypnosis. Is that in the book too?
Oh, definitely. Whole chapter on it. They give you step-by-step instructions how to induce it in yourself, use it for growth.
That's awesome. Everyone can access that power, not just some guru on a mountaintop.
Exactly. It's a skill, and like any skill, practice makes perfect.
So many possibilities. Stress, sleep, confidence, reaching goals. Wow.
Endless, really. And the book goes through different techniques, relaxation, visualization, affirmations.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like we just scratched the surface of transformations.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. Grinder and Bandler, they really challenge how we think about hypnosis, about communication. So much potential for positive change.
Eye-opening, for sure. Makes you realize the power of language, how it shapes our reality.
That's what it's all about. Not just techniques, but a whole new understanding of how we communicate.
So as we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners? Something to ponder?
Think about this. How could understanding your own representational system, and that of others, change how you communicate every day? The book's a great start, but the real journey is yours to take.